Okay, for this section, we're going to be going into an overshoot. So we're going to have an object fly across the screen, go past its target, and then settle back into it. So I'm going to go to Composition, New Composition, and I'm going to call this Exercise 4. And hit OK. And I want to put in a target for the object to hit. So I'm going to use the Type tool and click and hit A. So this is the starting position. And let's make the A a little larger so we can see it a little better. Okay, then I'm going to hold down Command and hit the D key on the keyboard, left mouse down and drag while holding the Shift key, and this is going to be the target, but it's going to overshoot this target. So I'm going to name this letter C by grabbing the Type tool, left mouse down and drag on top of it. Then I'm going to take C, Command D, left mouse down and drag, oops, zoom in a little closer, left mouse down and drag, holding down the Shift key. Okay, this I'm going to name B. So it's going to go from A to B to C. Yep. And then we can put in a path for this. Let's go to the pen tool, layer, new, shape layer, and I'm going to call this path. And I'm going to click on the A, above the A, and I'm going to hold down the shift key and click over B, so now I have a straight line. Now I'm going to want to potentially add little tick marks or circles or something for this so that I know where I want these to hit. So I'm going to use the pen tool. You can create a new shape layer for each one of these tick marks. I'm going to select the path shape layer so that when I add my tick marks, it's actually adding them inside of the same shape layer, because I do not plan to animate them independently. So what I'm doing is selecting off of the pen tool and then selecting off the object, then reselecting it. And I'm doing this so that I don't have this happen. I don't want to connect these lines. I just want them to be individual little dots. There you go. Okay. Okay, oh, it would probably help if these had a stroke, so I'm going to give these a 2-point stroke. And I'm going to go inside of Path, go to Shape 1. There we go. Let me see if I move. Yeah, there we go. Let's shift it over. There we go. Okay, and let's take these letters and move them down a little bit. Actually, let's take all of it and move it down a little bit. Okay. And let's take the letters by themselves and nudge them down a little bit. Give them a little bit of breathing space. Okay, so now I'm going to take the path and the BCA and lock those layers. Then I'm going to create a new shape layer for the object, and I'm going to make it as a little circle. And if I make the object on top of the anchor point, then, which is by default, the anchor point is going to be in the center of your page whenever you make a new shape. If I draw the object on top of it, then I don't have to necessarily reposition the anchor point unless I need to, or I don't have to reposition it that much. There we go. And I'm going to take this and move it to the starting position. I'm going to right mouse click on shape layer 1, go to rename and call it ball. Or circle. Actually, circle is probably more appropriate. Circle. And then I'm going to close contents, open transform, and I'm going to have it hold for about 6 frames. So for 6 frames, no movement. So with my time indicator at frame 6 on the timeline, I'm going to go to position and hit the stopwatch to the left of the word position, placing a keyframe. And then I'm going to shoot it across. Let's go to about half a second. So starting it at 6, having it reach B at 18, that's going to be a half second. Okay, and then I'm going to shoot it back. Let's see, 12, 18, so 24. There we go. So one thing you might notice right away is that there is a little bit of the path kind of goes past this last tick mark, as you can see. Even though there are actually no keys that go past that point. If you look closely, there's a little dot and not a keyframe. So what's causing that to happen? It's generally the same idea as to what causes, in the previous exercise, and the object's supposed to be moving along an angular path, and it's creating an arc as we go. It's the same idea, but we just have to tell it not to do that. So basically I want to tell After Effects that we don't want an arced path here. Even though it doesn't look like an arc, it's just overshooting it a little bit more than it should be. So this is actually the keyframe that's the problem, I believe. So right mouse click on it, we can go to keyframe interpolation, and it says linear for temporal interpolation. That's fine, that just means it's going from one position to another. Spatial interpolation, auto Bezier. So let's change that to linear. I'm going to hit OK, and that should resolve the problem. Yep, that solved it. So the anchor point of the ball is now only going to the keyframe position. It's not going past it. So now let's zoom out. We have, there we go. And let's give it an easy ease into the last position. Easy ease in. Oops. That's the wrong one. This is the one we need to do it to the C. Easy ease in. You could also potentially add an easy ease in, or easy ease in general, depending on what this is meant to represent. What does the B represent? Is it a wall? If it's hitting a wall and then slowing to a stop at C, then you would not want to have any kind of ease on the B. If it's more like a yo-yo or a rubber band that's the ball's attached to, and as it reaches the B, it's slowing down and being pulled back. It's overshooting the position it's supposed to be at full extension, stretching out and then coming back in, or like a slinky. Then you would probably want an easy ease in there, and that would be more efficient. And I'm going to hold down Command to undo that, so there's only the easing in here. But again, if it's a wall, if it's hitting a wall, like shooting past, say you're playing skee-ball or bowling, and you roll the ball, and you're aiming for this, but you've overshot it, and then it hits the wall, and then it slows to a stop, then the B would be at full speed. It would just be linear. So either way it would work. And again, the important point of this exercise is having it start at one position, overshoot its target, reach the extreme, so the biggest point of change, and then come back. It should slow to a stop, so ease in to the last position. And one thing to be careful of, and this is a technical issue with After Effects, is making sure that it reaches this last point and does not slide past it. So we had to fix this keyframe in order for that to happen. Before, it was going a little bit past. Let me undo that. it was going a little bit past the target because of the way After Effects was interpreting the keyframes. So just watch out for that as well. Also, before I forget, right now our timeline is set for 5 seconds, but this animation really is over at about 1 second in. Maybe we could stop it at about 106 or 112, but it certainly doesn't have to go so far as 5. If we leave it as it is, then the animation's going to stop, come to a dead stop, and then hold for a really long time. We want to avoid that. So let's go to about 106 to 112, somewhere in here. And let's say 112, so 1.5 seconds. We can go to Composition, Composition Settings, and then the dialog box that appears, where instead of having 5 seconds, we're going to change it to 1.5 seconds. So I'm going to delete the 5 and change it to 1, and then change the frames to 12. So now 1.5 seconds. We're going to hit OK. Now something to be wary of is the next time you create a new composition, it is going to, by default, believe that you want the duration to be 1 second and 12 frames, so 1.5 seconds. That's not going to be the case, so when we create our next composition, we're going to need to be aware of that and make changes to it. But for now, we do want to make sure that this composition is at a length that is helpful for the animation and makes the best use of the time spent. So that is working with overshoots.